And now, I'd like to introduce Steve, our main speaker for tonight.
Thank you. My name's Steve, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to take my coat off. My sobriety date is April the 30th, 1993. So if you're counting, it's been about 19 years and 8 months of, 8 months of sobriety, something like that. I don't usually talk too much about my drinking, because I probably did the same as what you all did. Rachel, was it? Rachel, where are you? You're out there somewhere. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. When I had 3 years sober, I was in Milan, in Italy, and I looked up a meeting in Milan, I thought, well, I wasn't going to so many meetings back then, but I'm going to go there and just show them, tell them how to do it, and I'm going to just. I had a whole speech ready for them, And I walked in there, and there was a guy in there, and he was a musician. I'm a musician, and the guy, he said, he says, I know you. He said, yeah. He said, how long have you been here? I said, well, actually, it's my third birthday today. And he said, can I give you a cake? And I said, absolutely. And I'm sitting there, just like got this whole speech planned how I'm going to do it. I got up. The guy gave me my chip, and I burst into tears, and I couldn't talk. Every time I went to talk, I would just cry, sobbing. I was like, And I guess it was God's way of telling me to shut the fuck up. So congratulations, you must be doing something good, because you actually got to talk. I drank a bunch, and I did a lot of cocaine, and how I found it was through, like I say, I'm a musician, and I was in France, and I was into this drinking. If I was born in England, you have to be into drinking. Isn't that right, Mickey? Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, he knows. Yeah. In England, you have to drink. Brighton, my hometown, it's got like a pub on every corner. It's got the most pubs per capita. Well, it used to have. I don't know about now. There's a lot of them have closed, but it used to have the most pubs per capita. And so, when I was a little kid, I used to go, and my mum used to take me into the pub, and I used to look at the real drinkers, because my mum, she'd have like a little, like half pint or something, and the real drinkers were at the bar being loud and falling over and everything, and that's basically, what I aspired to be, that kind of a drinker. Somebody who could drink a lot, just be really rowdy, and I had a career at that, and then I started working later on in life. I started working with this band in France. I was 21 years old, and I had a trombone player in the band, and he was kind of a depressed guy, well, he would be. He plays the trombone. He's like, he, one day went round to his caravan. He lived in a caravan, or a trailer, I think you call it in America. He was all happy. He was very happy. And I said, well, what's up with you? He says, this doctor's given me these great pills called Captagon. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. I said, what, you're really cheerful. I said, why don't you give me one of those? So he gave me a Captagon, and it kind of had the same effect that I later found out as what cocaine did. So it allowed me to drink a lot. I could drink a lot, and I was up all night, and I didn't collapse, didn't throw up or anything. It was a good way to drink. I could drink more. I could get more inside of me. And, it took a few years, but when I was about 35, I'd been married 4 times, divorced 4 times, numerous hostages in between, and then for some reason, it was like at the age 30, for some reason, people started to get pregnant, and I couldn't understand how they were doing that, you know. and these women were getting pregnant, and I have 2 children from I was married to one woman there, and then there was another child that was in between those 2, but I didn't find out about that one until years later, you know, and that was my 3rd wife. Marie was my 3rd wife, mother of my 2 children, and then that came with the lawsuit. And then with that lawsuit, right after that, I just went and did the same thing. I got somebody else pregnant, and I was in this mess. And I was with child support, divorces, more child support, and I didn't think that I would ever find my way out of that. It was just a complete mess. It was a tsunami of unmanageability. I was just swamped. There was a massive wave, and there was nothing. There was just no way around it, no way out of it. It was going to crush me, and that was it. The rest of my life was shot. It was finished. And I tried to drink it all out of existence, and it wouldn't go away anymore. No matter how much I drank, no matter what I put inside of me, and I put not just cocaine, I put anything inside of me. No matter how much I mixed drinks, it just would not go away. You know, there was a time when I could just sort of forget about it, but it just wouldn't leave, and I was just miserable. And I knew some people that were in AA, and they were kind of, I'd go out to dinner with them, and they'd sit there and AA is the most important thing in my life, and it was, oh God, boring people. Might be for them, but not for me. I have a life of adventure. And they'd stop drinking, and I had this other friend of mine that stopped drinking. He lived in Texas, in Austin, but he used to come and hang out with me in New York, and never once mentioned AA. Never mentioned it. We go out to dinner, we'd have a good time, we'd go into the clubs, and I was just, he'd stopped, but I hadn't, and I was we'd just enjoy ourselves and laugh, and he never said anything to me. He probably went to AA meetings and said, that was, what they say in AA, I was out last night with some friends, and it's alive and well out there. He probably was saying that stuff about me, but he never said anything to me about it. And I had my 43rd birthday. I waited until, you're really fortunate. I wish, there's something I wish I could have done. I got this earlier, but I was 43 by the time I was old when I got it. I was 43 when I had my 43rd birthday. And I went to this restaurant called Il Molino in New York. There's a little lad. A fantastic Italian restaurant in New York. And this friend of mine called me up in my house and said, it's your birthday, let's go to Il Molino. I said, I don't want to go there. He said, come on, man, let's go to Il Molino. Come on, get dressed, I'll come down and get you. I got dressed, put on a suit, and went downstairs, and went round to Il Molino, and we got in there. And this is one of those places where it's like a month, 2 months wait to get in this place. But this friend of mine is kind of connected, knows the people, and he always gets in there whenever he wants. But so we went in there, and we were sitting there, and I'm sitting there at this table opposite this friend of mine, and they're bringing all this fantastic food, and I'm sitting there and just eating and eating. And I look at my friend and I say, "What am I doing here with you? I want a beer with you." He said, What, just eat. It's really good. Get me some fucking cocaine. I'll make a call for you. I said, get me some fucking cocaine now. And now, people in the next table are starting to hear this. You know? Yeah. Now I know it's always stupid. It's stupid for me to say, have you seen Scarface? Every drunk junkie's seen Scarface. There's that scene in the restaurant where he turns around to these people. He's having an argument with his wife, and he's like, "Who the fuck are you looking at?" Yeah. I did that. I did one of those in this restaurant. Yeah. So my friend, to calm me down, said that he went and made a call, and he said we'll be all right afterwards, and I was all right after that. I calmed down. 5 days after that, I was just in this funk. I mean, the stuff just would not stop, and I'm out here in Los Angeles, and I'm playing on a TV show out here, and I was staying at a friend of mine's house, and somebody gave me a bottle of vodka for my birthday. I remember this bottle. I remember it had a little green ribbon tied around it, and bottle of Stoli, and I had an 8-ball of cocaine, and I was sitting in my friend's kitchen there over there in Studio City, and he was cleaning his kitchen, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just snorting and drinking out of the bottle and snorting, and just miserable. And I said, you know, I don't know why I'm doing this. We're not going to go out anywhere tonight. We're not going out to hang out or anything. You know, it's not like a party or anything. You know, party was over. I said, I've been doing this for a while. I'm going to stop. And my friend said, great, fantastic, wait, we swear off. And I said, whoa, wait a second. I'm going to finish this first. This is going to go first. So that's what I did. I finished that, and I didn't think I was alcoholic. I'm not alcoholic. You know, those other miserable guys are alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. Got up the next day, got on the plane, flew back to New York, and heard all this chinkies, and called up my friend of mine in New York, and he said, "Oh, come on over, we're having a party at the house today." Well, Glenn, things have changed. I've stopped drinking. I'm not drinking and not using anymore. He said, "Great, just come over." And so I go over to this party, and I'm sitting there at this party, and I'm drinking water and Coca-Cola, and my friend's doing this barbecue, and nobody's really sort of taking any notice of it that I've stopped, you know. And then this beautiful girl walks in, you know, and sits down next to me, and I start talking to her, you know, and I said, "We want to go somewhere after the party." And she says, "Oh yes, I'd love to." And this is all right. You know. And I take her down to Grand Street, and we go down to Grand Street, and I'm down there, and I'm drinking water, and we're talking. I said, "So tell me, how come I never met you before?" She said, "I've met you 3 times before." When was that? Well, I came to your house with Glenn one night when we had a thing at your house with a bunch of people, and I sat next to you at a dinner party, and I came to a concert, and we all hung out at the concert with you and all your friends, and that started a 4.5-year relationship with that woman. You know, I'll get to that bit a little bit later on. So here I am, day 1 of being sober. And a few days later, I go to sleep, and I'm asleep. I'm dreaming, and I dream that somebody's taken a spoon of cocaine and put it underneath my nose. And I said, "I'm not doing it. I don't do this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. Take it away." And they wouldn't take it away, and it was there, and I held my breath. And I'm pretty stubborn. Stubborn's one of my character defects that can come in handy sometimes. And I held my breath, and I held my breath in my sleep, and I woke up. I had to inhale, and I woke up, and I was covered in sweat, and my heart was beating so fast in my chest it was trying to break out of my chest, and I couldn't tell if that was a dream or not. I was in this really weird state of confusion, and I thought, well, that's kind of strange. You know, there can't be anything. That's weird. Yeah. I just sort of blew it off as being like this one-off thing, and that started like a 3-week cycle of that every night. And you know, when you go to I go do panels, the Tarzana treatment and Cry Help, and sometimes you walk in there and there's these fresh people that are in there, and they look like somebody's taken a telephone book and just bashed them as hard as you can in the face, with a telephone book, and they're stunned. And I think that's where I was, because that shouldn't have happened to me. It wasn't in the cards. That wasn't. I wasn't alcoholic. What's going on? What is this? And I was in this really weird, just didn't know what to do state when the phone rang, and it was my friend from Texas. Called me up, said, "How you doing?" He talked like John Wayne. That's how he sounded to me, like John Wayne. "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, it's really fucked up. Everything's fucked up. I've given up everything. I've stopped everything. "What do you mean, everything?" "Yeah, everything. No more booze, no more drugs." I'm done with it. I finished it. I'll do it. "Well, how's it going?" "Oh, not good. It's all weird. Everything's fucking strange. It's all fucking strange." And that was the first time that he mentioned AA to me. He said, "Have you tried going down to AA?" And my reaction, I'm not gonna go down there. Now, I had no idea where AA was, but I knew that it had to be down somewhere and probably under. And he said, "Well, stay where you are, and I'll call you right back." And he jumped on a plane. He jumped on a plane in Austin, Texas, and flew to New York. And next day took me to my first AA meeting, which I came to find out 10 years later was Midnight Madness. I don't know if any of you guys are from New York, but Midnight Madness is kind of a crazy place. Perfect place for me to get sober, but Midnight Madness is wild meeting. And I walked in there and I sat in this room, and there was a guy doing what I'm doing now, and I felt better. I don't know how one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic works, but I felt better. And I still wasn't alcoholic. I still wasn't convinced that I was alcoholic. That meeting finished, and all these people came up and gave me the newcomer. The newcomer's like, "My name's Steve, and I think I might be an alcoholic." So people came up and gave me a meeting list, and then my friend took off, went back to Austin, and left me with this meeting book. And I looked through this meeting book, and studio musician, so I played a lot of stuff Midtown, and there was a meeting called Fireside in the YMCA that started at 12:30, which was perfect. I could get up and do my jingles in the morning, then go hit Fireside, and then go start albums and stuff in the afternoon. That's when the music business used to be like that. So I went to this meeting. I walked into this meeting, and so the second day of AA, and I'm sitting in there, and they start asking, "Is anybody celebrating and counting days?" And I've been counting from the beginning, because I'd heard the other guys, the miserable guys, talking about counting days, and I've been counting days, and I put my hand up and said, "My name's Steve, and I think I might be an alcoholic, and I have, I don't know, it's under 30 days, a little under 30 days." And at the end of that meeting, this guy comes sauntering up to me, and he says, "Hi, Steve." And he says, "I was talking to some people over there, some of my friends over there." It's probably his sponsor. Said, "Go over there and help them. Go over there and talk to that guy." He said, "I'm going to be your temporary sponsor." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And I thought, "Fuck you, who are you? Who's this guy? What does he want? He must want something from me." And he gave me his card. He said, "Call me. You got any questions? Just call me." And I said, "Okay, thanks." And I left, tore up his card, threw it in the garbage. And like I say, this meeting was kind of, so I went back, next day I went back to the same meeting. Here comes this guy again. "You didn't call me." "Well, no, I was busy." "Oh, well, you got any questions?" "No." Gave me his card again, sat down after the meeting. "Yeah, you all right, anything?" "Yeah, no, I'm fine. And I left again, tore up his card again, went back the next day. I see him over that side of the meeting. I go to that side of the meeting. He comes over and sits down next to me. You didn't call me. Same thing. He does this day after day. It's just call me stuff. I mean, when is he going to understand? I'm getting annoyed with him. Look, I'm busy, right? You don't understand. I'm a busy person. And one day I thought I had him. There was two guys sitting and there was a seat in between the two guys. So I went and sat in the seat between the two guys. And that son of a, he comes over and he says to this guy, would you mind moving over one? Ambush me. But you know, I don't even remember this guy's name. I don't remember his name, and I don't know where he is now. You know, it's the Trump Hotel where he used to work in that building. It was the Trump Hotel now, so I don't even know where he is, whether he's still in New York. But you know, I pray to God that guy is sober. I mean, he was so persistent that I would think that I prayed that he stayed sober. Yeah, and he was put in my life for a reason. You know, God puts people in your lives. All those friends that you had up there giving you a cake. You know, you don't know why you're put in their life or they're put in yours, or where that's going to go. There's all this interconnected stuff that goes on in AA. But I was sitting next to this guy in this meeting, and there was this woman that was sharing, and she started talking about cocaine, and I had a newcomer thought, and that was, I said, he's sitting next to me. I said, hey, you know, I've been thinking, and he said, what? And I said, well, maybe if I just stop the cocaine, I can have a beer once in a while, a glass of wine or something. You know? Now that, you know, you say something like that to someone in AA, that you know, you could be risking something, right? But what I've learned in AA is not to be afraid, because God puts people in your lives for a reason. Yeah, there's a lot of different answers that you could get. Some people would turn around and say, here's $20, I'll buy you a first drink. Other people would whip out the big book and start reading all this wisdom that's in the big book that you don't understand. God put this guy in my life. And this guy looked at me and he said, Steve, he said, you do know how you drink, right? And I had to stop and think about that for a second. And I got a good picture of how I drank. And I said, yeah. He said, so do you want that guy making a decision on whether to do a line of cocaine or not? And I'd never thought of it like that. He cut off my escape route. He cut it off with an ease like a hot knife through butter. Yeah? So if any of you are thinking of using it anytime, call another alcoholic. They can cut that off in a flash. Yeah? So let me move forward with, you know, I had a spiritual awakening of about 90 days into my, right at my 90 days, around 90 days, I had this sort of spiritual awakening, which consisted of me going to this meeting, fireside, and then it was kind of boring meeting, except for one guy. This guy Patrick is dead now, God bless him. He jumped up and he had a go at everybody. He said, you know, you can intellectualize yourself into the bottle. You know, you're all full of shit, and just like start yelling at everybody. And I said, yeah, I like him. I like him. And this girl I was going out with, asked me to say some prayers, and I've been having some difficulty with that, because I thought somehow between being a young kid and an altar boy, and being like a really good, we used to have religious instruction at school, and I was really good. In all the exams, I get 99 out of 100. They'll only get 99 out of 100 because they'd have one question, what they say, answer one part of this question, and I'd answer all three parts correctly. But they'd dock me a point for not reading the question properly. So that is another resentment. It would give me a resentment, you know. Somewhere between that and the end of my drinking career, which was my idea of God was when I get face to face with that fucker, I'm going to kick his ass, because he's not doing stuff right. He's screwing with my friends, and he's screwing with people that I like and love, and I don't like it. And when I get him, I'm going to give him a boxing lesson. And that was the idea that I had got. And this Mr. asked me questions. I told him, I saw this stuff on the scrolls up there written about God. And he said, just go, when you go to bed, hit your knees and put something underneath the bed and just say, thank you, God, for keeping me sober today. Take it back out in the morning while you're down there, say, please keep me sober today, and just do that. And that I could do, you know. So I did that. And then I went in, this girl had a horse she was putting down, and she asked me to say some prayers, and I was like, well, you know, she said, well, you know, Native Americans, they take tobacco and they scatter tobacco to the 4 directions of the compass, and they say a prayer. Why don't you do that? I smoke cigars. No, it's a habit I still got. And so I took a couple of cigars and I went up to Central Park, and I found this spot in Central Park, and by the baseball fields there's a big rock, and I'm up there and I've got one cigar and I crumble it up and I start scattering the tobacco. I take care of my mom in England, and take care of her and the horse and everything, take care of my friends, take care of me with business, make some money, do that. And now I'm going to smoke this other cigar. And I sit down on this rock and I light up this cigar. And it's just a gorgeous day. And I look up at the sun, and again, those sobs, those tears, those same tears came. And it was just like from inside, just like welling up, just like crying, sobbing. It's like, and I'm like, you know, I give up. I give up with this stuff. And I had a therapist on Central Park West, and I called my therapist, and he said, oh, well, you know, come over, I've got somebody, just come over. And I go over there, and then I sit there waiting, and I sort of calm down a bit, and I get inside, and I tell him the story, what happens, and I tell him, gets up, and I said, and I looked up at the sun, and they come again, tears again. And he said to me, you know, you've tamped down all these feelings for years now with drugs and alcohol. So now you're connecting up. You've been dry for a while now. You haven't done anything for a while. So now all your stuff is connecting back up. So just go home. You'll be fine. If you get really, really, you know, suicidal or something, just pick up the phone, call me. And I went back home, and all that afternoon I'm in there, and I'm just like, you know, sitting there walking around watching the TV, crying, make a cup of tea, cry again, just like, and this friend of mine who owned a club in New York called me up and said, hey, you know, Steve, it's anniversary tonight, a big party, everybody's coming up here. And I said, oh, and they all knew I was getting sober. All the barmen were in AA, and they were all saying, you know, they all give me like soda water, and when somebody said, give Steve a drink, I had my own glass. I had a big glass. It was my glass, and they said, give Steve a drink. So they give me like cranberry juice and soda water, and they probably charge somebody for like for the vodka and everything that they put in there. So my friend said, look, just come up there and if anything goes strange, you can go in the back room. We'll put you in the back room. So I went up to this club, and I'm up there, and there's a lot of people in there, and there's some people I hadn't seen in a while, and this guy walks up to me and says, hey, Steve, how you doing? Shakes my hand and palms an 8-ball of cocaine in my hand and says, knock yourself out. And I'm looking at it, and here's my nightmare. And I look at this guy and I say, I don't do this anymore. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, and he takes it back. And I say, who said that? Where did that come from? You know, and I honestly believe that you know, I'd spent this time like looking for a higher power, and I wasn't really connecting with it. And that afternoon, I think you know, God showed up because God knew that I needed Him that night, and like He showed up when I walked in that meeting and put that guy next to me. So there's a lot of stuff that you see in hindsight. One of the, you know, it wasn't so long after that I walked in that meeting and I was late, and this woman looked at me and she tapped the watch and she went. And that was it. I was done with AA. I wasn't going there anymore. And I stopped going. Not advising anybody to do that, but I stopped going. I stopped going for almost a year. And my friends would call me up and say, "Oh, you know, come back to the meetings." And I ain't gonna go back there. I'm not gonna screw that, screw her. You know, in retrospect, you know, that woman was trying to help me. She was only trying to help. She didn't know why I was late, and she, you know, wasn't really. But she thought that it would probably serve me to be on time to a meeting. So she opened her mouth and she told me, you know, but you know, me being me and stubborn, I stopped going for a while, and then went down to Florida Keys to go diving, and with my girlfriend, and we went diving, and it was such a great day. We had such a great day, and we decided to stay down. We were staying in Miami. We decided to stay down in the Keys and do another day of diving, and we went out to an Italian restaurant, and we get to this Italian restaurant, and we sit down at an Italian restaurant, and there's a bottle of Chianti on the table, and I say to her, I think tonight, I think I'll have a glass of wine tonight. And she said, yeah, right, you're an alcoholic. Remember you said you're an alcoholic? I said, yeah, but it's been a while now, maybe just a glass of wine. She said, come on, you can't do that. And I think she thought I was joking. I said, well, okay, well, how about a spritzer? She said, no, you can't have, So I said, okay, never mind. I just have water. And I just drank water. And I didn't really think too much of it. Until 2 weeks later, this wreckage of my past that I had came back again, and my bank accounts were frozen. There was some stuff there was a stunt that was pulled, actually, but my bank accounts got frozen, and my accountant called me up, and they said they're freezing your accounts because they're saying that you haven't paid child support, and I've been paying it. Now, I don't know if you know what it's like to untangle. It was a really tangled situation. But in brief, it was like I was paying my child support in California, but I was supposed to pay it in Cleveland, but then I got sued in New York, so I had to contact Los Angeles to let Cleveland know, let New York know that I had been paying, and that took a long time, and it was a mess. And I wanted vodka. And I was in Nashville, and I went to a meeting. I called one of the guys that I work with in the program, and I said, "Is there a meeting around here?" And he said, "Yeah." He took me to a meeting, and I guess enough time had passed that I was sitting in this meeting, and they were talking about the phenomenon of taking the first drink. And all of a sudden, I started to hear stuff. I started to hear things. I started to understand stuff. I still hadn't got the big book yet, but I started to understand what they were talking about. Because the language of AA, when you're new, it can be a little bit confusing. It can be, it can be gobbledygook. It can just be like gibberish sometimes. What are they talking about? And then all of a sudden, things morph into clarity. And that's one of the things that happened with this big book stuff was that, I moved out of New York and I went to Santa Fe. I went to live in Santa Fe. And I got scared because there's nothing for me to do in Santa Fe. And I started to go to more meetings in Santa Fe. And I got a sponsor. I decided to get a sponsor. And, I kept hearing people talk about this book, but I couldn't get it. It just didn't make any sense to me. And anyways, she took me, it was a she. She said, to talk about, guys stay with guys and girls stay with this girl. This girl, and I picked her because we had this big book meeting, and she, without looking at the book, she'd say to somebody, read to this line, and she'd say this line, and then I'd look ahead, and that line was in there. So she knew the big book. So I asked her to be my. So I said, would it be okay? I said, would you be my sponsor? And there was a guy in the meeting. And everybody knew I was looking for a sponsor, and this guy came up to me and he gave me his card, and on his card he had a blender. And he said, I'll sponsor you if you want. He said, I'm going to put you in that blender, chop you up into a lot of little pieces, and then spit you back out again. I'm like, oh, you are you? Yeah, not that one, yeah, not on your life, you're not going to do that. So I asked this girl, and she said, I got to ask my sponsor first. There's some good information, right? Ask your sponsor. So she goes and asks the sponsor. And next day I saw her at the meeting. She said, well, my sponsor said it's okay, but she said, I've got to tell you, I'm a lesbian. Does that bother you? And I said, well, I'm black. Does that bother you? She said, no. I said, well, then I guess you'll be my sponsor. Then this, Mr. Blender came up to me a little bit after that, and he said, what did you think about me? Did you think about me being your sponsor? And I said, well, actually, I asked this girl to be my sponsor. And he said, well, people didn't tell you about that? And I said to him, listen, in fact, she's more of a man than you are. So she sponsored me, and she did a great job, and then she left town. And when she left town, she told me to find another sponsor. And I came up with that excuse, I can't find someone that I like. So she said, find someone that you don't like. So there was this guy that worked at the railway station, and I didn't like him. So I asked him to be my sponsor. And he took me through the steps, and he took me through the fourth step, and he took again, and he did it a little bit differently. And things changed again. Then I left. And I came to Los Angeles, and I started looking around for a sponsor, and people started asking me to do fourth steps again. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. Well, so I did one for one guy, and then basketball started. The Lakers started, and he got more interested in going to the Lakers than going to a meeting. So that really wasn't what I wanted, So I asked another guy, and he's like, "Well, write another fourth step for me." I'm like, God, what's wrong with all these people? And I'm praying, please God, give me somebody. And I went to this other meeting, which was a private meeting in somebody's house, a guy that had an accident. And so people started to take a meeting to his house. And I complained in the meeting about this four-step stuff. And this guy walked up to me and said, gave me his card and said, give me a call and I'll help you out. And that's Bill Summers, and he's my sponsor today. All those years ago. That's a long time we've been friends. That guy knows everything about me. And he taught me how to be a father. He taught me all kinds of stuff, And wanted to learn about this. Still wanted to learn about this big book stuff. I went to one meeting over in Los Angeles with some friends and buddies of mine, and there was a lady, a woman. It's kind of sort of like she looked kind of like a lesbian nun sort of woman, And she was very big book stuff. And I'm sitting like right in the front down there, and I said, I don't get this big book thing, It just sucks, It's all confusing. And I heard a woman say at a meeting the other day that it was badly written. And she started to go red like your coat. She just started to go red like this, And when I finished speaking, she looked at me and she said, "That's because you're a prick." Oh, that's not very nice. So the next night, I went over to this other place, and I thought, well, let me try that again. I went over to the Church of Chimes, and I said the same thing. So this time, people found it funny for some reason. They thought it was funny, and then this old guy came over. This old Marine came over, ex-Marine, came waddling over like this, and he took my finger, put it on the big book, and he said, "Just read the line. Read the black bits. Don't put anything in the white bits, and it's not a novel. Don't read it like a novel. Don't look to see where it's going. Just read the line." And I don't know what that did, but that changed. It was like the book morphed, and all of a sudden, I started to find stuff in that book. I continue to find stuff in the book. That book tells you a lot of stuff. It deals with a lot of stuff. I don't want to. I mean, there's so many different. I could tell you lots of little stories, lots of little miracles of stuff that's happened in my time in AA. But this young lady that I found, like I said, our relationship lasted 4.5 years. And at the end of 4.5 years, we were supposed to get married, and 6 weeks before the wedding, she called it off. And 4 weeks later, she married another guy. And I was in the fetal position on the floor in agony, and I wanted a drink again. And instead of doing that, I went and saw Mickey. And I said to Mickey, I said, "How long does this pain last?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know. It's lasted, I've had it about twice in sobriety myself, and might last like, a month or maybe like a year, maybe 2. I'm like, oh God, no. I said, well, what can I do? What can I do? He said, well, I don't know. It's always good to be of service. Why don't you pick up the phone, call central office and ask them if you can go and answer the phones. And I did it. I did it right there and then. I called up and there was a guy named Mo who worked down there, and I went down and they trained me up. And back then they just had the book. They got the computer and stuff there now, but he trained me up and when I got relief when I went down there, like I got relief when I walked into that meeting and that guy was talking, and then things just got better, my sponsor, was helping me with this huge resentment that I had, and then one day somebody pointed out that thing in the big book that says that if you've got to pray for that person for 14 days, and the best bit was, it says, do it even if you don't mean it. And I said, yes, I don't mean it. So I go running to my sponsor and I say, Bill, I found the solution to this resentment stuff. It's in the big book. All this stuff, pray for them. 14, yeah, that's it. I said, and the best bit is that I don't have to mean it. And he said, it works better if you do. Cut off my escape route again. AAs can cut off that escape route. Let me see. I don't want to leave you with the impression that I throw wild parties and have young newcomers come over to my house. Actually, what happened was that I'd had my prostate removed because I had prostate cancer. And I didn't have too much to do for a month or so. And a friend of mine asked me if I would work with an artist, and he happened to be a sober guy, and that's how you came over to the house. So, in sobriety, I've had some other challenges as well. And the same year as I got diagnosed with prostate cancer, I lost my mother. And I came across some writing. I keep all these books. I got a lot of different books around, and I write in them. And I came across this book, and I was looking through this book, and I found a fear list. And in that fear list was that I would lose, because I sort of got led to buying a house without any money, and then a friend of mine helped me buy a business without any money, and this was the thing. Asking for guidance, and I get this guidance. The solution to all my problems didn't come in the way that I thought it would come. All I had to do was stay sober and keep my ears open, and I would get guided to these solutions. As long as I stayed sober and stayed involved in AA and stayed involved with my sobriety and didn't take any notice of the problems, they had a way of fixing themselves. And so that was one fear. And then the next fear was that my mother lived in England. I'm 6,000 miles away from England. That if anything happened to my mother, that I wouldn't have a chance to get there. What happened was I sold the business 3 years later for twice as much money as what I paid for it. I bought the house next door and put my studio in the house next door. And my mother, when she had a stroke, I went to England, and I got to spend a month and a half with her in England. And it's Christmas time. My mother always used to annoy me at Christmas because I call her up and she'd say, "Oh, I'm sitting here alone." And I said, "Well, why don't you come over?" "Oh no, it's too hard to come all that way." And I'm like, "We haven't got to do anything but sit and watch a movie like you do at home. Just sit there. It's not like you got to pedal the plane or something. Just get. No, you don't understand. I can't." I mean, she had all the. She was like that. She was a cantankerous old English woman, we had at the end of everything, we just had the greatest time together. That month and a half with my mum was healing, really, really healing. There's some things that have gone on that haven't resolved themselves yet. You know, it seems. My father, I met my father for 2 days when I was 9 years old, and I've tried repeatedly to find my father, and every time I've come close, he was from West Africa, from Sierra Leone. Every time I've come close to finding that, or getting close to go there, there was one time this year I was supposed to go over, and I was going to do this quick trip to Sierra Leone, where my father's from, and see if I could find out something and dig around a little bit. Every time I got to do that, something comes up, and I get blocked from doing it. You know? But I figure that maybe I've just not got the right time yet to go over there. The timing isn't right. You know, I most probably will get there, but you know, when, I don't know. The daughter that was the biggest problem of them all, the biggest and most costly lawsuit, gave me my first grandson, actually my first 2 grandsons, and we have a great relationship right now. The young lady that I was going to get married with had a baby last year and made me godfather to her child. That's stuff that doesn't happen. You don't get there. People don't get it. People stay mad about stuff like that for years and forever, for a lifetime. Won't speak to someone forever, you know? And, you know, I wanted her in my life forever, and she's in my life forever because I'm godfather to a kid, you know? And just not in the way that I thought it was going to work out. Things always have a way of working out if you stay on this path, you know? And it says that bit in the big book. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. It's hard to do. It's difficult. We do difficult things. We do difficult things when we turn around to someone who we can't stand the sight of and tell them that we're sorry for what we've done. It's difficult, difficult stuff to do. But the rewards, you know, I'm not saying you're going to win the, you know, actually that was my solution. All my stuff will be solved if I win the lottery. You know, I ain't going to win the lottery. The odds of that are just incredibly, you get hundreds of thousands to one. But the odds of staying sober might be a little bit better than that. A little bit. Yeah? Because I see a lot of people come and go. You know, trust me, it's a better thing to stay. How much longer do I have? 0 minutes? You gave me the 5 minutes already? I didn't even see it. All right. So anyways, listen, I've really enjoyed being here this evening, and all I can say is really just do what I do. I keep coming back, and if you keep coming back, I'm sure you'll be fine too. Very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is that you're celebrating, and make it a sober one. I'll keep coming back. Thank you.